Just a quick warning, this video will contain explicit and sexual content. The video will tell some gruesome details about murder victims and crimes committed by a very disturbed individual. This is not a topic that can be treated lightly, and as such, viewer discretion is advised.
Hi everyone, it's Lady Curious, aka Curious Raven, back again with another true crime. It's not completely solved, but it's ongoing right now. This is a case that happened in 1999, and I see that it's not really out there a lot. There's maybe like 4 or 5 true crime creators that have done the story. And there also is the podcast that has really deep dived into this case. Let's start this. JB Beasly and Tracie Hawlett were found shot to death in the trunk of JB's car in Ozark, Alabama in 1999. The case is still unsolved, but it's ongoing now, so there have been some movement. This is what happened. Also, I am reading from something, but I will throw in other little tidbits that I have read, I have listened to, I know. I like to be real with y'all. I don't want to just read from a script. I want to be personal between you and I. When I'm talking about cases, I want you to know how it makes me feel, kind of in the moment. Let's get this going. On July 31st, 1999, 17-year-old friends, JB Beasly and Tracie Hawlett, they left Dothan, Alabama. That's where they lived. It was around 10:05 p.m. They get into JB's black 1993 Mazda 929 to attend a birthday party in her honor in Headland, just a few miles north. But unfortunately, the girls never made it. Both of the girls had kind of a curfew around 11, and since it was only a few miles, down the road, that they wanted to just drop by, especially since JB heard that they were throwing it for her birthday, and she just wanted to stop in and say hello real quick and then leave and tell everybody thank you. And these girls were smart, pretty, popular, funny. They're only in high school. They only had one more year left. They're about to start their senior year in high school. They were very, very young, and it's very, very sad. It really is. Around 10:30, JB and Tracie stopped at a BP gas station in Headland near the intersection of routes 173 and 431, where they used a payphone to call friends. Supposedly they got lost. They wanted to make sure they were going in the right direction, so they called their friends at the party to ask. After the call, the girls ended up in Ozark, Alabama, about 24 miles northwest of Headland. So they got lost. They went way out of their way. They still did not understand directions to the party. At 11:30 p.m., the girls stopped at Big Little Store on Broad Street in Ozark. The store closed a half hour earlier, so at 11 p.m. Tracie called her mother from a payphone there and told her they got lost and ended up in Ozark, and that they are on their way back home. A woman they saw there, named Marilyn Merritt, and her daughter stopped at the gas station to buy a soda at the same time the girls were there. Marilyn then witnessed Tracie using the phone to call her mother. Marilyn said the girls were nice and polite and that JB was outgoing. Nothing seemed amiss. When the girls pulled out of the parking lot, they turned right as directed. However, JB Beasly and Tracie Hawlett never made it home. Okay, when I researched this case, there was this TV show or YouTube show, like Psychics and Mediums, where they actually showed them telling the camera things that they did not know about the murder. And in this show, they said that when JB and Tracie were at the Big Little convenience store, that in their mind's eye, they could see a black truck sitting kind of in the dark behind Tracie So the person inside could see them pull up, park, and use the phone. And they said it was a man inside. The windows were blackened, like tinted windows. And he was just waiting, like a lion with a Giselle. It's disgusting. They were trying to help figure out what other people didn't know before the discovery of the girls the next day. One medium said that he actually took the police chief over to where the girls were at, because how they found their car was on the side of a dirt-roaded area, but they were pulled over onto the shoulder on Herring Avenue in Ozark. When they noticed, it was around 8 a.m. the next morning, August 1st, 1999, and at the same time, Tracy's mother reported her missing. Police found JB's car along Herring Avenue in Ozark. The car was muddy. The driver's side window was partially down, and the doors were locked. Despite filling the gas tank the day before, the tank was almost empty. There are no signs of a forced entry into the vehicle. JB's driver's license was on the dash, and both girls' purses were still inside of the car, along with some money. So robbery was ruled out as a motive. The only known missing item was JB's keychain, which held her car keys and other keys. The keychain had white blocks with black letters that spelled out "hard to get," but the keychain was never found. A palm print was recovered from the trunk lid, but a match has never been made. 6 hours later, police finally realized they could open the trunk of the car with an interior latch without needing the trunk key or locksmith. When police opened the trunk, the bodies of the two girls were inside. Both had been shot to death. Tracy in the temple, JB in the right cheek. A 9mm shell casing laid precisely on Tracy's leg. The girls were fully clothed. Tracy's jeans had briars on them, and she had scratches on her arm. JB was noticeably dirty. The girls' pants were wet up to the knees, suggesting they had been shot, and their shoes were also very, very muddy. So this is just things that I found online. I'm not saying it's true or it's like hearsay or whatever, but he actually took the police chief over to the other location where this happened. And it was kind of in between a barn and a little bit down the hill was a creek. And he could see the girls falling into the creek, and that's why their shoes and their pants were all muddy and wet. He had a gun, duh, that's a given, and he had the girls get on their knees, and they did rape kits, and the girls were not raped, but they did find semen all over JB's bra and panties. He made them literally pull up their shirts, so he can see their bra and stuff. He got off on, masturbation by looking at them. And I guess he had them pull their pants down a little bit. Lewd, lascivious act, showing his penis to a underage girl. And that's just disgusting. I feel so bad that they had to, sit there and go through that. Because if I were them, I would think, oh God, what is he going to do next? He's going to rape us. I'm very happy that they weren't. I know their family, their mom, dad, are just heartbroken that this happened to them. The autopsy showed that the girls had no alcohol or drugs in their bodies. Some evidence in the trunk led police to believe the girls were shot in the trunk. However, they are still unsure exactly where the murders actually occurred, on Herring Avenue or somewhere else. And the place that the psychic brought the police chief, y'all, not even 100 yards away from where the car was. It was kind of like the car was on the shoulder of the road, and then there was some dense forest. And then there was the barn and all that he said that it happened at. I have not saw or seen or heard that they actually found additional evidence in that location, but I don't think so. More than 50 state and county investigators worked the case in a city, which is 45 officers on its force. An FBI suspect profiler was brought in, but the profile revealed nothing dramatic. The killer, most likely, was a young male who could be described as a loner. On the night of July 31st, 1999, at the same time Tracie Hawlett called her mother from the payphone at Big Little Store, Johnny William Barentine, 28, told his wife he was going out to buy milk for their 2-year-old son. Barentine did not return home until 1 a.m. His wife said that when he came home, he was visibly upset. She asked him what happened, and he said his car had been hit by a black truck with Dothan tags near Herring Avenue. Days later, Barentine confided to others that he had information about the murders of JB Beasly and Tracie Hawlett. A friend encouraged him to tell authorities and collect the reward. On September 1st, 1999, Barentine walked into the Ozark Police Department where he was interviewed for 4 hours. In that time, he told 6 different stories to police and at times even placed himself at the crime scene. Initially, Barentine said that on July 31st, 1999, he saw a black truck speeding away from the area where the girls were found. Then he claimed he picked up a tattooed man he did not know, and they drove by the Big Little Store. The man then got into a car with 2 girls and told Barentine to follow. Barentine identified the girls as the dead girls. The group ended up on Herring Avenue where the man and the girls got out of the car. One girl ran. Both girls were combative. Barentine heard 2 gunshots before the man returned to the car and both men went home. In another story, Barentine told officers this man was his neighbor. Barentine actually lived less than a mile from Herring Avenue. In all versions, Barentine never mentioned anything about sexual assault. After his confession, police arrested Barentine and charged him with 2 counts of capital murder. He then retracted his confession, claiming he was innocent and that he made the whole thing up to get the reward money. It sounds like it, doesn't it? Because nothing he said really lined up with any of the evidence. When Barentine's DNA was tested, it did not match the semen found on JB's body and clothing. Therefore, the judge approved Barentine's bond request. He was released from jail Friday, December 17th, 1999. A grand jury declined to indict him in January 2000. There were some other suspects. There were 3. One was a man from Michigan who was in the area at the time of the murders and could account for a period of 3 to 4 hours that night. He later made suspicious statements to people about the night. Law enforcement officials traveled to Michigan to interview him and had his DNA tested. Not a match. Big Little Store surveillance video recorded a small white pickup at the time the girls were there. The video does not show the driver or anyone else getting out of the truck. It also never clearly shows the driver's face. Police released a photo of the truck to the media a month into the investigation, but no one came forward. The truck and the driver were never found. The 3rd suspect was a man from Mississippi who was visiting relatives in Ozark on the night of the murders and left town 2 days later. The man was extradited from Jones County, where he had been arrested there on an outstanding warrant for possession of drug paraphernalia issued in Ozark. In March 2000, authorities compared his DNA samples to those found on JB. They did not match. In March 2000, a woman called police and said she heard screams and 2 gunshots near Highway 123 South, just inside the city limits. On the night of July 31st, 1999, she did not come forward earlier because she did not want to get involved. The area was searched with metal detectors. A 9mm bullet, the same type used to kill the girls, was found, but the brand name of the bullet did not match the brand of bullet shell casings found. Furthermore, the unspent bullet had no markings that would help with forensic comparisons to other evidence in the case. Another item was found at the possible crime scene on Highway 23 and was tested. Soil. Soil samples were also taken from the possible murder site and compared to dirt taken from the clothing of JB Beasly and Tracie Hawlett. It is unclear what the other item was or what came from that testing. So they had no solid leads. They had nothing to point them to who it could be. In 1999, the DNA and even just forensic testing was not as amazing as it is today. There are some rumors about this case. They are not proven. They are just what someone came forward and said. There's no validity to them, but this happened in 2015. Rena Crum, a sworn Ozark auxiliary police officer, came forward and accused an Ozark police officer of murdering JB Beasly and Tracie Hawlett. She also claimed that the numerous law enforcement officials had knowledge of the murderer's identity and covered it up by getting rid of evidence and making threats. She claimed one cop in particular, Butch Whittington, messaged her on Facebook and told her to keep her fucking mouth shut. She also named two other cops, Rex Tipton and Eddie Henderson. Rena went as far as to say that Police Chief Tony Spivey also knew the killer's identity and helped cover it up as well. Rena alleged that on the night of July 31st, 1999, this police officer pulled over JB Beasly and demanded to know the whereabouts of some cassette tape that contained recorded conversations that could have incriminated top Ozark police officials and others in cocaine distribution and profits. According to an article, this was on the internet too. I tried to find the article. Actually, I didn't find it, but this kind of tells us what was in it. An article written by John P. Carroll, a journalist. The retired officer believes the two girls intended to use these tapes in a court case that was scheduled for the coming Monday, August 2nd, 1999, less than 48 hours after they were murdered. The tapes were to be entered as evidence. Carroll also states in this article that Rena was severely beaten with a baseball bat after she came forward. Out of fear, she refuses to name who almost killed her, despite Rena's allegations and the fact that she named certain police officers about their involvement in the murders. She refused to name the officer who supposedly murdered the girls, or how JB acquired these tapes. However, it is an understanding of this author that JB was present when the conversations took place and she secretly recorded them. The law enforcement officers Rena has accused have denied any involvement in the murders of JB Beasly and Tracie Hawlett. On January 29, 2016, Keith Cawthon, Rex Tipton, Tony Spivey, Eddie Henderson, and Gary Butch Whittington, all Ozark, Alabama officials, filed a lawsuit against Rena Crum, John B. Carroll, and Dean Matthews for libel, slander, and defamation of character. John B. Carroll owned HenryCountyReport.com at the time and wrote a few articles on Rena's allegations. Interestingly, since 2016, the website is now a legal online magazine. In May 2016, Rena Crum was arrested for harassment communications. Despite an investigation over the years into the murders, no one has ever been arrested and the case remains unsolved. Ozark Police Chief Tony Spivey worked the case until his retirement in 2015. I also heard another rumor that it's because JB was supposedly in a secret relationship with one of the police officers. To be honest, I don't see a 17-year-old girl. These are my opinions. I don't see a 17-year-old girl doing all that. They got better things to be doing instead of trying to blackmail a police officer. It sounds ludicrous. Also, how would they know? How would the police officer know exactly where the girls were? That makes no sense. It's 1999. It's not like they got a tracker on her car. To me, that rules out that. I don't think that the police had anything to do with it. They were trying their best to get someone in there to help them, like the FBI, and they were doing everything that they could to try to figure this out. Because until this day, this case has just still rattles, and it just shook up those quiet towns in Alabama. My other thoughts, I do believe it was a man that was hiding and waiting, and the girls didn't see him, and he used that to his advantage. place at the wrong time kind of deal. They just had so much life to live, and someone took that away from them because they wanted to do lewd and lascivious acts to them, and it's not worth their lives. There's no reason why he had to shoot them. So that's what I believe, that they're at the wrong place at the wrong time, and some little lurker was lurking and followed them. And I believe the way the psychic said was this truck got in front of the girls as they were driving, like further down the road, and then pulled across the road and made them stop. And he acted like he needed help. And so she rolled down the window, about 4 inches to see what was going on, JB did. And then the guy stuck a gun in their face, and then their hands were tied, They couldn't do nothing. They had to listen to what he wanted and said. And then he got into their car and had them drive them over to the barn. He put them in the trunk, shot them, drove the car back. And it makes so much sense. But no one really knows what happened. No one knows. Only those girls do. And unfortunately, they're not here to tell their story. And sick man. So this is the newest news. It came out in 2020. They actually found a DNA match to the semen that was on JB's clothes. But it was a DNA match through, how people put their DNA to 23andMe, to Ancestry.com. Well, it states on the fine line that your DNA can be used. Goes into a database, and there are labs that actually run those DNA samples through old cold cases to see if it hits on one of the DNA matches. So keep that in mind. But this person, I guess, put his DNA in there, maybe, by family or related, closely to somebody that was, and then they realized that it was actually him. It was a turn in the case, I can tell you that. And he got arrested on Saturday, March 16th, 2019. Police arrested 45-year-old Cooley McCraney of Dothan and formerly of Ozark, Alabama, in connection with the 1999 slaying of JB Beasly and Tracie Hawlett. Information gathered indicates DNA collected at the crime scene was uploaded to a database where anyone can share their data from consumer DNA testing companies such as 23andMe and Ancestry.com to search for relatives who have submitted their DNA. The DNA data revealed matches equivalent to relatives of the crime scene DNA. Other information allow law enforcement to close in on a single person. Now, he's in jail, and he was he's a reverend, a very supposedly godly man. His wife is just beside herself that, no, my husband could never do this, and he pleads that he is innocent. But DNA does not lie. I mean, why else would his DNA semen be on her clothes if he didn't do it? But he still pleads he's not guilty. He did have a trial set for 2021, but due to COVID, they had to keep pushing it back. So the newest update is that supposedly this year, 2022, he's supposed to have a trial and be tried with the murders. So I can keep you updated when that does happen and what the outcome is, if he is actually found guilty or not. I think he will be. I mean, the evidence is crazy. He lived in Ozark at the time. His DNA was on JB Beasly's clothes. That was a long time ago. He's 45 years old now. He's old. He was young back then and wanted to live out his fantasies or something. It's really sad, y'all. That's mainly all I have about this case. And it's just very, very sad that these girls were on their way back home and then this happens. They told their mom, I'm on my way, and then they never came home. I'm glad now that we do have cell phones. It's easier to call people, and I'm glad there's advanced technology today to help solve crimes, even cold cases or mysteries. I'm from Alabama. I do know where Dothan is, but I've never heard of Ozark, Alabama. That was new to me. I did not hear about this even... I think I was about 11 or 12 when this happened to JB and Tracie, but I didn't hear about it. Not that I remember. It's a quiet town. Stuff like that doesn't happen there that often. So it was huge news, even for Alabama, especially back then. Alright, I don't know how to end this video, but that's all I got for this case today. I hope that this brings more light to this case, and not to forget about JB and Tracie. I do give my condolences to their family. I know that they are probably still hurting. Please do not put any hate down in the comments, because one of their family members might be watching this and reading the comments. Just be nice. I love you all. Please learn from these cases and stay safe. Please tune into my other channel, Curious Raven and Lady Curious. Give some likes and subscribe. If you have any other cases you would like me to read or dig deeper on and read it that you would like to see on this channel, please email me. Everything's down below. Until next time.